You're 12 years old. Your father is the most wanted man in Mexico. You just found out at school. Your life is perfect. Swimming pool. Private tutors. Vacations to Disneyland. Then your classmate shows you a news article. Your father's photo. The word, Narco. In 10 years, you'll understand exactly what he does. And you'll have to choose. Inherit the empire. Or run forever. You're 12 years old in Culiacán, Sinaloa, 2014, living in a house that looks like the ones you see in American movies, the ones where rich families live in neighborhoods with names instead of just street numbers. Your house is in Colonia Chapultepec, which is where the doctors and lawyers and successful businessmen live, which is what your father is, or at least that's what you've always been told. He runs businesses. Import-export. Agricultural products. Things you don't really understand but don't need to because understanding is for adults and you're 12. The house has 6 bedrooms, which is excessive for 4 people, but your father says a man should live in a house that reflects his success. There's a pool in the back, kidney-shaped, with a waterfall feature that makes this pleasant rushing sound that you fall asleep to in the summer when your window is open. Your room is on the 2nd floor, and it's bigger than the entire apartment your best friend Daniel lives in with his whole family, though you don't realize this comparison yet because you're 12 and everyone's house just is what it is. You go to Colegio Ingles, private school, 18,000 pesos monthly tuition, which is about $1,200, which is more than a lot of families in Culiacán make in 2 months. You don't think about this because why would you? You wear a uniform, navy blue pants and white shirt with the school crest, and everyone in your class wears the same thing. So you all look equal even though your father's SUV is a Cadillac Escalade and Daniel's father drives a 15-year-old Nissan that sounds like it's dying every time it starts. Your father is gone a lot. Business trips, your mother says, and you accept this because business trips are what successful men take. He's gone for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then he comes home and he's happy and generous and he brings presents, always presents. An Xbox, a new bicycle, a remote control helicopter that costs 8,000 pesos and breaks the first day, but it doesn't matter because he just buys another one. He pays for everything in cash, thick stacks of bills that he peels from a money clip, hundreds and 500s, and the bills are always new, crisp, like they just came from a bank, which they probably did, just not in the way banks usually work. Your mother is beautiful in the way women in Sinaloa are beautiful, which is to say she looks like she spends time being beautiful, which she does, because looking good is her job even though nobody calls it that. She goes to the salon twice a week, gets her nails done weekly, wears clothes that you'll later learn cost more than most people's monthly rent, designer brands you can't pronounce yet. She drives a white Mercedes ML 350, and she picks you up from school in it, and you see the other mothers in their Volkswagens and Nissans looking at the Mercedes with faces that you can't quite read yet but will later understand as a mixture of envy and fear. You have a little sister, Sophia, she's 8, and she's in the same school, 3 grades below you. Your father calls her Princessa and he spoils her even more than he spoils you, which you don't mind because you're 12 and material things are infinite when you've never experienced scarcity. Sophia has a room full of dolls from America, from Europe, dolls that cost 3,000 pesos each, and she plays with them for a day and then forgets about them because when you can have anything, nothing feels special. The guards are always there, but you don't think of them as guards, you think of them as staff, like the maid and the cook and the gardener, just part of the house's furniture. There are always 2 men at the gate, and they wear polo shirts and jeans and they smile at you when you come home from school, and they have guns under their shirts but you don't think about the guns because the guns are normal, everyone in Sinaloa who has money has armed guards, that's just how things are. Your life is perfect. You're 12 and you live in a big house with a pool and you go to a good school and your father brings you presents and your mother is beautiful and your sister is happy and the guards at the gate smile. This is your normal. This is what you think life is. It happens on a Tuesday in March, which is late in the school year, a few months before summer break. You're in the cafeteria with Daniel and 3 other friends, eating lunch, and one of them, Miguel, has his father's phone because his phone is broken and he's using his father's temporarily. Miguel is scrolling through news, which is boring, but then he stops scrolling and his face does something strange, something you've never seen before, which is fear mixed with excitement, the kind of face people make when they discover a secret that's too big to keep but too dangerous to tell. What? You ask, and Miguel looks at you, and then looks at his phone, and then looks at you again, and you can see him making a decision, the decision between being your friend and being the person who knows something you don't. He chooses the second one, which you'll later understand is what people always choose when the secret is big enough. He turns the phone toward you. It's a news article from Noroeste, one of the local papers, and there's a photo, and the photo is your father. Not a candid photo. A professional one. The kind of photo the police use when they're looking for someone. And next to the photo is a headline, and the headline has words you recognize but have never seen attached to your father's name before. Narco, Cartel, Sinaloa, Wanted, Drug Trafficking, Armed and Dangerous. You read the article 3 times because the first 2 times don't make sense. It says your father is a regional commander for the Sinaloa cartel. It says he controls drug trafficking routes through Sonora into Arizona. It says he's responsible for 14 murders, though the murders are described as alleged, which is a word you learn means they know he did it but can't prove it. It says there's a 2 million peso reward for information leading to his capture, which is about $130,000, which is enough money that someone at your school's parents might consider calling the number at the bottom of the article. The table goes quiet. Everyone is looking at you. Miguel is still holding the phone out, like he's offering evidence, like he's waiting for you to deny it, but you can't deny it because you're looking at your father's face, and it's definitely him, the same face that smiled at you this morning at breakfast, the same face that brought you the Xbox last week, the same face that you've loved your entire life without ever once questioning where the money comes from or why there are always armed men at your house or why your mother looks scared. Sometimes when your father's been gone too long. Is that your dad? Daniel asks, and his voice is quiet, and you realize that Daniel knew, or at least suspected, but was too polite or too scared to say anything. You nod. You don't say anything. What is there to say? Yeah, that's him, he's a drug lord, I had no idea, thanks for showing me on your father's phone during lunch in front of everyone. You just nod. The rest of the day is a blur. People look at you differently, not obviously differently, but differently in the small ways that matter, the ways that tell you everyone knows but nobody wants to say it out loud. Teachers smile at you the same way they always do, but their eyes are doing something else, something calculating, something that looks like fear pretending to be friendliness. Your classmates whisper when you walk past, and you hear fragments of words, father, cartel, dangerous, money, and each word is a brick in a wall that's building itself between you and everyone else. After school, the Escalade is waiting and Rafael, one of your regular drivers who you've known for 4 years, is behind the wheel, and you get in the back seat next to Sophia who's talking about her day like nothing has changed, which for her nothing has, she's 8 and nobody showed her a news article, and you look at Rafael in the rearview mirror and you wonder if he knows what your father does, and of course he knows, everyone knows. You were the only one who didn't know. That night at dinner, you can't eat. Your mother asks if you're sick. Your father isn't home, he's on another business trip, which you now understand isn't a business trip, it's whatever cartel commanders do when they're not at home pretending to be normal fathers. You want to ask your mother, did you know? But you can't ask because you already know the answer, and the answer is yes, and asking would make you both acknowledge something that your family has built an entire life around not acknowledging. You go to your room and you Google your father's name for the first time in your life. The results are extensive. Articles in Spanish and English. Photos of crime scenes that are described as linked to your father's organization. Reports about drug seizures, arrests, violence. A Wikipedia page that lists your father as a high-ranking member of the Sinaloa cartel, known for controlling routes and allegedly responsible for murders. There's a whole public record of what your father is, and you never looked because why would you? He's your father. He's the man who taught you to ride a bike. He's not a Wikipedia entry about organized crime. But he is. And now you know. Your father comes home 3 days later. You're in the pool when his Suburban pulls into the driveway, except now you notice things you never noticed before. The Suburban has armored plating, you can tell by how low it sits on its suspension. The windows are tinted darker than legal limits. The 2 men who get out with him aren't dressed like business associates, they're dressed like security, and they have the specific posture of people who are always scanning for threats, the same posture Rafael has, the same posture all the men who work for your father have. He walks to the pool area in a guayabera and jeans, and he's smiling and he's carrying a bag from Liverpool, which is a department store, which means he bought you something, which is what he always does when he's been gone. He sits down on a pool chair and calls you over, and you swim to the edge and you're dripping pool water onto the stone deck, and he hands you the bag, and inside is a Sony PlayStation 4, which just came out and costs 7,000 pesos, which is $500, which is 2 weeks of wages for someone working a normal job. Papa, you say, and he's looking at you with those same eyes that have looked at you your entire life, eyes that showed you how to throw a football, eyes that were proud when you got good grades, eyes that have never looked at you with anything except love, which makes what you're about to ask so much harder. I saw an article at school about you. His smile doesn't change, but something behind the smile does. Something hardens, like he's been waiting for this conversation for 12 years and he knew it would come but hoped it wouldn't come yet. He nods. What did it say? You tell him. Cartel. Drugs. Droughts. Murders. Wanted. He listens like you're describing the weather, and when you're done he's quiet for a long time, long enough that you can hear the pool filter humming and the guards at the gate talking in low voices. Do you know what I do, Mijo? He asks, and his voice is gentle, which somehow makes it worse. You shake your head. I make sure our family is safe. I make sure you and your sister go to good schools. I make sure your mother has everything she needs. I make sure we live in a house with a pool and guards and safety. Do you think the money for all this comes from selling oranges? You don't know how to answer that. You never thought about where the money comes from. Money was just something that existed, infinite, always there. The world is not fair, he continues, and he's not looking at you anymore, he's looking at the pool, at the house, at the life he built. People in Mexico, most people, they work hard their whole lives and they die poor. Your grandfather worked construction for 40 years and died with nothing. I decided that wasn't going to be my story. I decided my children would have opportunities. And yes, what I do is illegal. Yes, it's dangerous. But it provides for you. Everything you have, every opportunity you'll ever have, it comes from this. Do you understand? You don't understand. You're 12. How can you understand that your comfortable life is built on something that the news calls evil? How can you reconcile the father who plays soccer with you in the yard with the man who is allegedly responsible for 14 murders? But you nod anyway, because what else can you do? He's your father. And even now, knowing what you know, you still love him. That doesn't change. That's the cruelest part. The love doesn't change. You can't tell anyone what I do, he says, and now his voice is different, harder, not the gentle father voice but something else, the voice he probably uses when he's conducting business. Not your friends. Not anyone. If people know who I am, it puts you in danger. It puts Sophia in danger. Do you understand that? You nod. You understand that part. People your father has harmed, their families might want revenge. And revenge doesn't distinguish between the man and his children. That conversation is the moment your childhood ends, though you don't realize it yet. That's the moment you cross from innocence into complicity, because now you know, and knowing means choosing, and choosing silence means choosing your father's life over the truth, means choosing the pool and the PlayStation and the private school over acknowledging that all of it is paid for with other people's suffering. Age 14. You're in secondary now, which is like middle school, and you've learned to lie so smoothly that you almost believe the lies yourself. Your father is an import-export. He travels a lot for business. He's successful, which is why you live well, and success in Mexico requires security, which is why there are armed guards at your house. These lies are so rehearsed they come out automatically whenever someone asks, which people do less and less because by 14, everyone knows the truth and nobody wants to say it out loud. Daniel stopped being your friend. Not dramatically, not with a fight, just gradually, the way friendships end when one person has a secret too big to share. He started sitting with different people at lunch. Started being busy when you asked to hang out. And you let him go because you understood. Being your friend is dangerous. Not physically dangerous, probably, but socially dangerous, morally dangerous, the kind of dangerous that makes parents tell their kids to stay away. You have new friends now. Or not friends exactly, but people who orbit you because your father is who he is. Kids whose fathers work for your father, or work for people who work for your father, or are in adjacent businesses, which is code for they're also in the cartel just at different ranks. These kids understand. They live the same double life. Rich at home. Silent at school. Isolated by wealth that they can't explain and privilege that comes from sources they can't acknowledge. You can't do normal kid things. You can't go to the movies with friends without security following you in a second car. You can't go to birthday parties because your father has to approve the guest list first, make sure there's nobody there whose family has problems with your family, which in Sinaloa cartel politics is a long and complicated list. You can't join the school soccer team because games are public events and public events are security risks. Your father misses your 14th birthday party because there's a problem in Sonora, which is code for a rival group is trying to move into his territory and he needs to handle it, which is code for violence that you're not supposed to know about but you know about anyway because you're 14 and you pay attention and you've learned to read the signs. When there's a problem, your father disappears for days and comes back quiet, and the guards change shifts more often, and your mother's face gets tight in a way that means she's scared but trying not to show it. Age 15. You're in the Escalade with Rafael, driving home from school, when you see it. Federal police convoy, 5 trucks, lights flashing, speeding in the opposite direction toward the industrial district where one of your father's warehouses is. Rafael sees them too. His hands tighten on the steering wheel. He makes a call on his radio. Speaks in code. Flowers are being delivered. Which means police are raiding a location. Within 10 minutes, your father calls your mother. You can hear her end of the conversation. Yes. He's with me. I understand. She hangs up. Looks at you and Sophia in the back seat. We're going to Grandma's house in Mazatlan. Pack bags for a week. You spend 8 days in Mazatlan while federal police search for your father. The news reports are everywhere. Photos of the warehouse. Seized drugs. Estimated street value of 15 million pesos. Alleged cartel operation. Your father's name. Your last name. Your face is on TV, not because you did anything but because you're his son, and the media loves showing the families of wanted men to humanize the story, to make it more compelling, to show that even criminals have children who go to school and play video games. Your father isn't arrested. He's never arrested. He's too smart for that, too connected, too good at disappearing into the infrastructure he's built over 20 years. But you are photographed. You and Sophia, leaving your grandmother's house to get ice cream. The photo ends up online. Trending on Twitter. Hios de Narco viven en lujo mientras Mexico sufra. Children of drug lord live in luxury while Mexico suffers. The comments are vicious. People saying you should be arrested too. People saying your education should be seized. People saying you're complicit just by existing. You're 15 years old. You didn't choose your father. You didn't choose this life. But the internet doesn't care about nuance. The internet sees a rich kid with a cartel last name and decides you're guilty by association, which you are, but not in the way they think. You're not guilty of committing crimes. You're guilty of benefiting from them. You're guilty of living in a house bought with drug money. You're guilty of wearing clothes purchased with violence. You're guilty of silence. Age 17. You're in preparatoria now, which is like high school, and you've perfected the art of being 2 people simultaneously. At school you're quiet. You don't talk about your family. You don't talk about money. You dress like everyone else, regular clothes. Nothing flashy, even though your closet at home has clothes that cost more than your teachers make in a month. You drive yourself to school now in a Volkswagen Jetta, which is deliberately ordinary, not the Escalade, not the Mercedes, because showing up in those cars would be like wearing a sign that says, Cartel son. At home, you live in a different world. The house has been renovated twice since you were 12. Now it has 8 bedrooms, a home theater, a gym, a sauna. There's a tennis court in the back that's actually a helicopter landing pad disguised as a tennis court because your father needs to be able to evacuate quickly if necessary. The pool has been expanded. There's a wine cellar that your father stocks with bottles that cost 10,000 pesos each, bottles he'll never drink because he doesn't actually care about wine, he just cares about displaying wealth. The guards have increased. There are now 8 men on rotation, 24-hour security, shifts of 2 at the gate and 2 doing perimeter checks. They're armed with AR-15s, which is technically illegal, but the law in Sinaloa is flexible when you have money and connections. Your father has both. The local police don't bother your house. The state police don't bother your house. The federal police could bother your house, but they'd need authorization from Mexico City, and by the time authorization comes through, your father would be gone. Your father is homeless now. Maybe 40% of the time. The business has grown. He controls routes through Sonora, Chihuahua, Baja California. Estimated revenue, according to a DEA report you found online, is $800 million annually for his sector. He doesn't tell you this directly. He tells you he works hard. He tells you business is good. He tells you he's providing for the family. Which is all true. Also true, providing for your family means shipping 40 tons of cocaine annually into the United States. Providing for your family means maintaining relationships with corrupt officials at every level of government. Providing for your family means occasionally killing people who threaten the business. You don't ask about the violence. You've learned not to ask. But you see the signs. Your father comes home with blood on his shirt that he pretends is from a nosebleed. One of the guards disappears and nobody mentions him again, and there's a new guard and you learn not to ask why. Your father has a meeting in the study that lasts 6 hours, and when the men leave, their faces are grim, and 2 weeks later there's a news report about 4 bodies found in Culiacán, and you connect the dots, but you don't say anything because saying anything means acknowledging what you know, and acknowledging what you know means becoming complicit in a new way. Sophia is 13 now. She doesn't know. Or she knows but doesn't understand. She still thinks your father is in business, real business, the kind you study in school. She wants to go to medical school. She wants to be a pediatrician. Your father encourages this. He'll pay for medical school, he says, the best medical school, doesn't matter if it's in Mexico or the US or Europe, he has the money, he can make it happen. And you wonder how Sophia will reconcile being a doctor who saves lives with being the daughter of a man who has taken lives. You wonder if she'll make the same calculations you're making. If she'll weigh the good against the bad and decide that somehow the math works out. You've started seeing a girl. Her name is Lucia. She goes to a different school, a public school, which means she doesn't know who you are. On your 3rd date, she asks what your father does. You tell her the lie. Import-export. She asks what he imports. You say agricultural products. She asks if that's profitable. You say yes. She doesn't push further. You wonder how long you can date someone before they Google your last name. You wonder what happens when they do. You wonder if love can survive the truth. Age 18. You're graduating preparatoria. Top 10% of your class. Good grades because you've learned that academic achievement is one of the few things you can control in a life where everything else is controlled by forces you don't understand. Your father throws a graduation party. 200 people. Catered. Live music. Held at a hotel because your house, while large, isn't large enough for this kind of celebration. The guests are a mix of legitimate businesspeople who know what your father is and don't care, and people in your father's organization who pretend to be legitimate businesspeople, and family, and a few of your friends, the ones whose families are connected enough that they're comfortable being seen at your party. At the end of the night, your father pulls you aside. You're in a private room in the hotel, just the two of you, and he's been drinking, which he doesn't usually do, and he's looking at you with an expression you can't quite read, something between pride and sadness and something else, something calculating. You're 18 now, he says. A man. You need to start thinking about your future. You tell him you're thinking about university. Maybe business administration. Maybe in Mexico City, maybe Monterrey, somewhere away from Sinaloa, somewhere you can be someone other than the cartel boss's son. He nods. University is good. Education is good. But you need to understand the reality. You are my son. My eldest. Someday this will all be yours. He gestures vaguely, which somehow encompasses everything. The business, the empire, the violence, the money, the impossible weight of being who he is. I don't want it, you say, and the words come out before you can stop them, and his face changes, hardens, becomes the face he uses when he's doing business, not when he's being a father. You don't want it, he repeats, and his voice is flat. You don't want the house you live in. You don't want the car you drive. You don't want the education I've paid for. You don't want the life I've built for you. I want a different life, you say, and you can hear how young you sound, how naive, how stupid. I want to be normal. I want to do something legitimate. I want to not be afraid every time the phone rings that it's someone telling me you're dead or arrested. I want to not see your face on the news. I want Sophia to grow up without this. You stop. Because what you want is impossible. You want a different father. You want a different family. You want a different last name. You want to not be you. Your father is quiet for a long time. Then he says something that you'll think about for the rest of your life. You think you have a choice. You don't. You are my son. That is who you are. You can go to university. You can study business. You can pretend to be someone else. But when I'm gone, when I'm arrested or dead, this empire doesn't disappear. Someone has to run it. If it's not you, it's someone else. And that someone else won't care about your mother or your sister. They'll eliminate anyone who has a claim. Do you understand what I'm saying? Your choice isn't between this life and a normal life. Your choice is between protecting your family and abandoning them. That's right. You hate that he's right. But he is. In the cartel world, families are assets or threats. If you walk away, you become a threat, someone who knows too much and has no stake in keeping quiet. And your mother and sister become vulnerabilities, people who can be used as leverage or eliminated as loose ends. The only safety is participation. The only protection is power. Your father built a trap so perfect that even knowing it's a trap doesn't help you escape it. You go to ITM in Mexico City, Instituto Tecnológico Autónomo de Mexico, studying business administration, which is ironic because you're studying how to run legitimate businesses while being groomed to run an illegitimate empire. The tuition is 180,000 pesos per semester, about $9,000, and you pay in cash at the beginning of each term, which raises eyebrows in the administration office, but cash is cash and IM doesn't ask questions about students from Sinaloa with money. Mexico City is freedom. For the first time in your life, you're somewhere that your last name doesn't immediately mark you. People here don't know your father. They don't know what he does. You can be normal or something approaching normal, at least for a while. You make friends who don't have cartel connections. You date girls who don't Google you. You go to parties without security following you. You live in an apartment in Polanco that your father pays for 25,000 pesos monthly rent, and for the first time you understand what it feels like to just exist without the weight of who you are crushing every interaction. But the freedom is an illusion. Your father calls weekly. Always the same questions. How are your classes? Are you making connections? Are you learning? The subtext is always the same. Are you preparing yourself to take over? Are you building the skills you'll need? Are you becoming who you need to be? And you answer vaguely because vague is safe and commitment is dangerous. Age 20. Middle of your third year at ITM. You're in class learning about supply chain management when your phone buzzes. Text from your mother. Call me now. You step out of class. Call her. She's crying, which she never does, which means something terrible has happened. Your father's been arrested, she says. Federal police. In Mazatlan. It's all over the news. You hang up. Pull up news on your phone. There it is. Your father's face. Handcuffs. Federal agents. Helicopters. The headline, Major Sinaloa cartel leader captured in dawn raid. The arrest is everywhere. International news. CNN, BBC, New York Times. Your father is described as one of the top 5 leaders in the Sinaloa cartel. Estimated to have overseen the trafficking of 40 tons of cocaine annually. Connected to 27 murders, though the murders are still alleged because proving murder against someone with your father's resources is nearly impossible. The U.S. wants him extradited. Mexico is negotiating. The trial could take years. You fly home. The house is different now. Quiet. The guards are still there, but they're nervous. Without your father, their paychecks come from somewhere else in the organization, and organizational loyalty is transactional. Your mother is terrified. Sophia is crying. And you're the man of the house now, at 20, which sounds ridiculous, except it's not ridiculous because the organization is watching, seeing if you're strong enough to step into your father's role, seeing if you're a successor or a liability. 3 weeks after your father's arrest, a man comes to visit. His name is Hector. You've met him before, twice, briefly at family gatherings. He works for your father. Or worked for your father. Or works for whoever now controls what your father used to control. The grammar is complicated when the power structure shifts. Hector is maybe 40, dressed in expensive casual clothes, Lacoste polo, designer jeans, Rolex that probably costs 300,000 pesos. He sits in your father's study, in your father's chair, and this feels wrong, but you don't say anything because saying anything would be claiming a position you're not sure you want. Your father is a strong man, Hector says, and it sounds like a eulogy even though your father is alive. He built something impressive. Connections, sprouts, systems. These things don't disappear just because he's in custody. The business continues. But business needs leadership. You understand. You understand. This is the offer. This is the moment your father prepared you for. Step up or step aside. Become him or become irrelevant. I'm 20, you say. I'm in university. I'm not ready for this. Hector smiles, and the smile is not unkind, but it's not kind either. It's the smile of someone explaining a basic truth to a child. Nobody is ready. Your father wasn't ready when he started. He learned. You learn. You have advantages he didn't have. Education. Connections. Name recognition. People will follow you because of who your father is. The question is whether you're willing to lead them. And if I say no? Hector's smile doesn't change. If you say no, the business continues without you. Someone else takes your father's position. Maybe me. Maybe someone else. And your family becomes less important. Less protected. Mother, your sister, they're valuable now because they're connected to your father. If you walk away, that connection weakens. And weak things in this business don't survive long. This is the trap closing. The same trap your father described at your graduation. Participate or abandon your family. Become a criminal or watch your family become vulnerable. There's no third option. There's never been a third option. You've always known this, somewhere in the back of your mind, but knowing it abstractly and facing it concretely are different experiences. You don't answer Hector that day. You tell him you need time to think. He gives you 3 days. 3 days to decide if you're going to inherit an empire built on suffering, or walk away and hope that whoever takes over shows mercy to the people you love. You spend those 3 days doing math. Not financial math. Moral math. The kind of calculation that has no right answer. On one side, your freedom. Your chance at a legitimate life. Your ability to be someone other than your father's son. On the other side, your family's safety. Your mother who never chose this life but is trapped in it anyway. Sophia who's 16 and dreams of being a doctor and shouldn't have to pay for your father's choices or your choices. You visit your father in prison. Altiplano, maximum security, 90 kilometers outside Mexico City. The visit requires advance approval, background checks, security screening. You sit across from him in a visitation room, glass partition between you, phone connection, 30 minutes allowed. He looks older. The stress of imprisonment, of uncertainty, of possibly facing extradition to the US where he'd die in a supermax prison in Colorado, is aging him in ways that the business never did. Hector came to see me, you say? Your father nods. He knows. He probably approved the visit. What should I do? Your father is quiet for a long time. Then he says something you don't expect. Run. You think you misheard. What? Run, he repeats. Take your mother and Sophia. I have money hidden. Accounts Hector doesn't know about. Enough to start over. Canada, Europe, somewhere far from Mexico. Change your names. Build a different life. Get out while you can. You're staring at him through the glass, trying to understand. This is the opposite of what he said at your graduation. You said I had to protect the family. You said walking away was abandoning them. I was wrong, he says, and his voice cracks, and you realize he's crying, which you've never seen, not once in your entire life. I built this for you. For Sophia. For your mother. I thought I was giving you opportunity. I was giving you a prison. A different prison than the one I'm in now, but a prison. You asked me when you were 12 if I was a narco. I should have said yes, and I should have said I'm sorry. I'm saying it now. Get out. Don't become me. But even this choice, the choice to run, is complicated. If you disappear, if you take your mother and sister and vanish, Hector and whoever Hector reports to will see it as betrayal. They'll hunt you. Not immediately, maybe not for years, but eventually. And organizations like your father's have long memories and international reach. There's no witness protection program for cartel families who didn't witness crimes, just families who know too much and have too much money hidden away. You have 3 days to decide. Inherit the empire or run. Stay and become your father or leave and spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. These are your options. These are the only options. This is what being the son of a cartel boss means. You don't get to choose your father. You don't get to choose innocence. You only get to choose which kind of guilt you can live with. On the 3rd day, you meet Hector again. Same study. Same chair. He looks at you expectantly. You've made your choice. You don't tell him what your father said. You don't mention the hidden money or the suggestion to run. You look at Hector and you say the words that will define the rest of your life. I'm in. The empire doesn't transfer smoothly. Nothing in the cartel world transfers smoothly. There are challenges. Rivals who see your youth as weakness. Factions within your father's organization who question if a 20-year-old university student can command respect. Your first year is about proving yourself, which means making hard decisions, which means crossing lines you told yourself you'd never cross, which means becoming exactly what you swore you'd never become. Age 22. You're running operations your father built. The money is absurd. 600 million pesos annually flowing through the routes you now control, which is about $30 million US. You've learned the language. Logistics instead of smuggling. Personnel management instead of violence coordination. Market expansion instead of turf wars. The professionalization of evil, making it sound like business school because business school is what you studied and business is what this is, just business where the product destroys lives and the competition kills literally. Sophia is 18. She's in medical school. Your father's dream for her came true. Studying to be a pediatrician, and she's brilliant, top of her class, and she's funded entirely by drug money, your drug money, money you're making by shipping cocaine into the United States where it destroys American families the way it once destroyed Mexican families. The family funding paradox is complete. You're protecting Sophia by becoming the thing you were protected from. Your mother knows what you've become. She doesn't say anything. What could she say? You're doing what you had to do. You're keeping the family safe. But sometimes you see her looking at you with an expression that looks like grief, like she's mourning the son she raised, the boy who got good grades and played in the pool and didn't know what his father did for money. That boy is gone. You killed him. Not literally. But the person you are now is so different from who you were at 12 that it might as well be a different person entirely. Age 25. You're meeting with your lieutenants in a warehouse in Culiacán when someone new walks in. He's 20, your cousin Mateo, son of your father's younger brother. You haven't seen Mateo in years, not since you were kids, and now he's standing in front of you asking for work, asking to be brought into the organization, asking for exactly what Hector offered you 5 years ago. You look at Mateo and you see yourself. Same age. Same desperation. Same family pressure. Same impossible choice between poverty and crime, between safety and morality. His father, your uncle, works construction and makes 8,000 pesos monthly, which is barely $400 US, which is nothing. Mateo wants more. Of course he wants more. Who wouldn't want more when more is available and all it costs is your soul? Could say no. You could tell him to go to university, get a degree, find legitimate work. You could give him money to start over, help him build something legal. But you know he won't listen. You didn't listen. Your father didn't listen. Nobody listens because the money is too good and the alternatives are too limited and the family legacy is too heavy. So you say yes. You bring Mateo into the organization. You train him the way Hector trained you. You teach him the language, the systems, the methods. You create your replacement exactly the way your father created you. And somewhere in Mexico right now, there's a 12-year-old boy. His father is in the business, middle management, making good money, enough to afford a house in a nice neighborhood and private school and a pool. The boy doesn't know what his father does yet. He thinks his father is in business, real business, the kind you study in school. He's happy. He's innocent. He's living the exact same childhood you lived, in the same protective bubble of willful ignorance, and that bubble will pop the same way yours popped, with a news article or a whispered conversation or a moment of Google searching that reveals the truth. And that boy will face the same choice you faced. Inherit or run. Participate or abandon. Become his father or spend his life fleeing from his father's legacy. And the choice will feel impossible because it is impossible. There is no good option. There never was. The cartel doesn't run on loyalty or violence or even money. It runs on desperation and family and the terrible mathematics of protecting the people you love by destroying the people someone else loves. You're 25 years old. You've been in the business for 5 years. You've made decisions that resulted in people dying. You've ordered violence. You've overseen operations that flooded American cities with drugs that destroyed families, that created addicts, that filled emergency rooms and prisons. You're rich. You're powerful. You're protected. And you're trapped in exactly the same cage your father built for himself, except worse, because you knew it was a cage when you walked in, and you walked in anyway. Your father is still in prison. Extradition is pending. If he gets extradited to the US, he'll die in a supermax cell in Colorado, alone, in a box smaller than your childhood bedroom. If he stays in Mexico, he might get out in 20 years, might see freedom at 65, might walk out of prison into a Mexico that's moved on without him. Either way, the empire he built outlived him. It doesn't need him anymore. It has you now. And someday, 20 or 30 years from now, you'll be in a prison cell or a grave, and Mateo or someone like Mateo will be running the operations, and they'll have a son or a nephew, and that son will be 12 years old, living in a house with a pool, going to private school, thinking his father is just a businessman, and the cycle will continue because the cycle always continues because as long as there's poverty and there's demand and there's money to be made from satisfying that demand, there will always be organizations like this, and there will always be families like yours, and there will always be 12-year-old boys who discover the truth and have to choose what to do with it. The cartel doesn't need you. It doesn't need your father. It doesn't need Mateo. It just needs the conditions that create desperation, and those conditions aren't going anywhere. The system perpetuates itself. The machine keeps running. And you're not the king of the machine. You're just another part, another cog, another person who chose participation over escape and who will one day be replaced by someone younger and hungrier who makes the same choice you made for the same reasons you made it. And the machine keeps running.